Good morning, all. I realize I haven't been doing a lot of book reviews lately. I've been doing mostly movies and sort of neglecting to do book reviews. So I thought I'd do a brief book review of what I think is a fantastic book, and that's this one. It's Variable Star. It's by the great Robert Heinlein, and Spider was finished by Spider Robinson. Story goes that in 1955, Heinlein wrote an outline for a book that was going to be called "The Stars Are a Clock." And for some reason, he never got around to writing it. He wrote a very detailed outline, which his wife Virginia kept with his stuff, and presented it after he passed away to Spider Robinson, who was a close friend of Heinlein's. I've met Mr. Robinson. He's a fantastic guy, fantastic writer, um, and said, "Would you like to finish this?" And he took a look at it and said, "Yeah, sure. I'll do it." And the book came out in 2007. I was completely unaware of it, and I'm a big fan of Heinlein. I thought that his last book was the last one that he had published was To Sail Beyond the Sunset, which was the one about Maureen Long, which I really, really enjoyed because I've always enjoyed her character. Um, as with all of Heinlein's beautiful redheads, she's actually based on Virginia Heinlein, who was also a beautiful redhead. And the girl in The Menace from Earth is based on her. The girl in The Puppet Masters is based on her. Deja Thoris in Number of the Beast is based on her. Maureen Long is based on her. And the girl in this novel, Genia Conrad, is based on her as well. As is the younger girl, her cousin. It's a story about, briefly, and I'm not going to go into terrible detail, but it's a story of a young man who wants to marry this girl he's been seeing, or she wants to marry him rather, and he keeps saying, he's just graduated from high school, and he hasn't even found out if he's going to go to college yet. Why don't we wait until we find out if I got accepted? He's a saxophone player, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to play sax professionally, and he's waiting for a college letter from a music academy. He hasn't received it yet. He grew up on Ganymede, so he's used to a lighter atmosphere than on Earth, and he's not terribly comfortable on Earth. Wants to go back to Ganymede, or at least to the Jovian system. She tells him a very strange story. She's frustrated with the fact that he won't marry her right away, and tells him the story about a sheik who went out amongst his people and pretended to be a commoner. And because he was actually such a nice guy at heart, he wasn't, an autocrat. Uh, People thought he was just a normal person. And eventually he got so used to it that he gave up his life of being a sheik and dwelled for the rest of his life with the normal people. And he's wondering what this has to do with anything. And she's taking him to her quote unquote home while she's telling him this story. Via his flying car, I think it was. And they get to her compound, and it's enormous. And he's going, "What the heck is going on? Who are you?" And she reveals that she is, in fact, like the sheik. She is not just this simple girl that he thought she was. She is, in fact, the daughter of a man named Conrad, who is the uh, richest person in the entire solar system. And if he's going to marry her, he has to get the approval of her very famous father and his father. And so she's taken him home to basically have him vetted by her family. And even though he passes the quote unquote exam, he becomes terrified because they're starting to tell him, the father tells him he wants him to groom him to replace him as the head of this Conrad Industries. And he's like, "I don't want to be an industrialist. I want to be a musician. And, what have you gotten me into?" And he starts cursing the girl. And he talks to her young sister, Evelyn, who likes the fact that he talks to her as an adult. He doesn't talk to her like she's a kid. And he says, "Is there a way I can get a taxi out of here?" And she tells him a secret way that he can get out of the compound. And he does. He goes off on a bender. He's like cursing this girl's name. "What did you do to me? How could you do this to me? You're trying to steal my whole future." And goes on a bender, gets beat up by like a motorcycle gang or something, and ends up in Vancouver and tries to apply for on a starship that's going to a completely new solar system for a planet called Nova Brazil. And he just wants to be so far away that the tentacles of this Conrad Corporation can't get at him. And He gets a letter that says he's rejected from the academy, which he assumes was manipulated by her father, and trying to keep him on Earth. And he straightens his act out. He gets himself sober, and he starts playing saxophone in clubs to make himself a little money. Saves up enough money, goes back to the recruiting station for the space flight. They say, "Well, why should we take you? What's your specialty? We need people, specialists on this ship. We're going to start a whole new colony. We need somebody who's got skills. What skills have you got?" He says, "Well, I grew up on Ganymede. I'm a farmer. I know how to do hydroponics. I know how to grow vegetables. I know, farming. And you're going to need farmers on the New World, aren't you?" And they say, "Yeah, okay." They minimally decide to, accept him. He's going to be like, low pay grade, kind of, a swabby, basically, on this ship. And the voyage is going to take, even at close to light speed, though not exactly light speed, it's going to take 40 years. It's going to take 20 years there and 20 years back if they come back. And they ask him, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And he says, yes. His desire to get away from this girl and her overarching, greedy family is so great that he's going to do it. And he signs onto the ship, and I won't go into a lot of boring stuff because it gets into some detail, which again is very much like Heinlein. I can tell which parts are Robinson and which parts are Heinlein. Robinson makes a couple of in jokes about, like, he names a couple of spacecraft after some contemporary writers and things like that. But he makes a couple of Philip K. Dick references, I think, too. But mostly it's in Heinlein's style. It's written in the style of what he called his juveniles, which is not to mean that the writing is juvenile, but that those books were aimed at juveniles. Things like The Menace from Earth and Starship Troopers and The Puppet Masters and a few of the earlier works were meant to appeal to young audiences. And the main character, Joel Johnston, is young. He's just graduated from high school, as I said, and he's going off on this kind of goofy adventure. One of the other interesting things that he throws in here, and again, I think this is probably Heinlein's idea, is that telepaths now exist, but they only exist in twins. If one of them stays on Earth and another one is somewhere else in the solar system, they can communicate with each other through telepathy. But it only works with twins for some reason. I don't know why. That's kind of an interesting quirk. Well, one of the people on this ship is a telepath, and he's a rather miserable character. And as the story goes on, things start getting a little more interesting and complex about what's going on Earth. They don't get very much news, and it's mostly dealing with internal things. There's some internal politics that goes on, which again I won't get into, and some stuff about sexual relationships and his music playing, which is now becoming much better, and some things, because he's kind of got the blues now. He's sort of regretting that he left this girl behind. He's still sort of in love with her, but sort of not, also because he sort of saw through her facade. And she was just sort of trying to manipulate him into this position that he didn't want. But things go on. The journey goes on, and there are some problems. There's some problems with the ship's drive, which is very complex. And again, I won't get into it, but some interesting hard science. And one of the good things about both Spider Robinson and Robert Heinlein is that they can write hard science without making it boring. And that's a difficult task. Arthur C. Clarke could do that too, very well. And Dr. Robert Forward, who was my mom's boss at one point up at Hughes Aircraft, could do that as well. Was very talented at it. But it's hard. It's difficult. You get some writers who just start going on and on. Kim Stanley Robinson can get boring at times. He's also somebody who writes science fiction that's a bit harder, but I find that sometimes he bogs down. But not Spider Robinson. Anyway, as the ship goes on, and he's getting older, obviously, because, as I said, they're traveling at close to light speed, but not light speed. And the planet is, I think, they say it's 20 light years away. 40 light years away, actually. So they are getting close to the planet, and one of the telepaths has a terrible revelation. Something horrible has happened. The sun has disappeared. And he says, "What do you mean the sun's disappeared?" He said, "It's not there." And they slowly come to the realization this is not a natural occurrence. Somebody did it. Someone destroyed the sun purposely. we don't know who it is. We never find out. That's one of the hanging questions at the end of the story. But I thought that was a fantastic plot twist. I'm sorry if I spoiled that for anybody, but that's really, really the crux of it. And then, of course, the Conrads have happened along in a ship. They've known about the fact that somehow that the sun was going to be destroyed, and they have a rescue ship that's coming. But it's a small ship. It can only take like 3 or 4 people, and up to 10, I think, is the max. And they've got like 240 people on this big colony ship. They obviously can't take them any place. And they start making Joel this offer, we'll take you and we'll take a couple other people, and we have this sort of space yacht. And one of the people who comes along, and it turns out is insisted that they come to find him, is Evelyn, who he'd been communicating with all these years and kept up with him. And now she is no longer this 11-year-old girl he knew. She's 22, and she's gorgeous. Looks exactly like her cousin Ginny. She's also a knockout redhead, and he's very much in love with her now, and she's in love with him from these correspondences that he'd been kept going with her for all these years. And he says, I'm the one who came out to find you, and I'll figure out a way. And they figure out a way that they can actually, they're lying. They do have a way to rescue everybody. But it has to be done by some intricate science. And again, I won't get into that, but it's really good. It's very well done. And again, it's a solution that Heinlein would have come up with. For something that wasn't written by him, it's, I think, one of the better, late Heinlein books. If this is, his epitaph, as it were, the last book, because obviously I don't think there were any other unfinished novels, at least not that I've heard of. I know that there is a different version of Number of the Beast, which is now available, which I can't remember the name of, but I haven't read it. But it's apparently the same up to about 2/3 of the book, and then the ending is different. That was a book that I found very strange. I liked it, but it was very slow to a certain point, and then all of a sudden just takes off and grabs you and propels you through this wild scenario. And again, it has a gorgeous redhead in it, Deja Thoris, who is based, again, on Virginia Heinlein. But as far as Variable Star goes, I highly recommend it. It's really well written. Robinson did a fantastic job of finishing it, and it reads like a Heinlein novel, which is a tribute to Robinson's writing. So I highly recommend it. Again, Variable Star. It's from Tor Books, and this is the paperback, and I highly recommend that you read it.